Some enemies want money, some want revenge, and some want to remake the world by force. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw throws two of the most stubborn men in this universe into the same fight and then makes them share the wheel. Luke Hobbs is a lawman built like a tank, all force and instinct. Deckard Shaw is a former assassin who treats danger like a hobby. They can barely stand each other, but when a deadly virus and a nearly unstoppable super soldier threaten millions of lives, these two have no choice but to work together. The result is a globe-jumping action story packed with insults, impossible stunts, family loyalty, and a reminder that even the worst partnerships can become powerful when the stakes are high enough. The movie begins with Hattie Shaw leading a covert team into a secure laboratory. Hattie is an elite operative, highly trained, calm under pressure, and every bit as dangerous as the people hunting her. Her team is there to secure a programmable virus called Snowflake, a biological weapon powerful enough to wipe out millions if it falls into the wrong hands. But the operation goes wrong almost immediately when Brixton lore crashes into the mission. Brixton is not just another mercenary. He has been rebuilt with advanced technology that makes him faster, stronger, and more precise than almost anyone alive. He moves like a machine, predicts attacks in real time, and carries himself like he already knows the outcome of every fight. He wipes out Hattie's team with terrifying speed and then comes after her. With no time left and nowhere safe to hide the virus, Hattie makes a desperate decision. She injects Snowflake into her own body, turning herself into the only container Brixton cannot simply steal. That choice saves the virus for the moment, but it also places a timer over the whole story. If the virus is not removed soon, it will activate and spread through Hattie's system. The organization backing Brixton, known as Edion, wants Snowflake to reshape the future through control and destruction. Brixton believes he is part of that future. In his mind, humanity is weak, and only ruthless evolution deserves to survive. He is not motivated by greed as much as belief, and that makes him even more dangerous. With Hattie now the target of every search and every weapon Edion can deploy, intelligence agencies look for people capable of stopping Brixton. That is how Luke Hobbs and Deckard Shaw are dragged into the same story. The movie makes a point of showing how different they are before forcing them together. Hobbs lives in disciplined chaos, training hard, eating hard, and approaching everything head-on. Shaw lives with polish and control, moving through elegant spaces and acting like the whole world is one bad joke he happens to survive better than everyone else. Neither man is happy about the job, especially once they learn Hattie Shaw is Deckard's younger sister. Deckard immediately becomes more invested, though he hides it under layers of arrogance and irritation. Hobbs becomes interested because the threat is global and because if Hattie really has the virus in her body, there is no time for ego. Of course, ego is exactly what fills the room the first time they meet again. Their reunion produces the kind of rivalry the movie depends on. Hobbs and Shaw compete over everything, from how to interrogate suspects to who gets through a door first. They insult each other constantly, question each other's methods, and keep acting like the mission would move faster if the other person simply disappeared. But under all that friction is a useful truth. Hobbs is relentless, Shaw is precise. One breaks walls, the other slips through them. Together they are chaotic, but they are also effective. They track Hattie to London, where the first major clash between family and duty starts to take shape. Hattie does not trust either of them at first. She believes Deckard still brings danger wherever he goes, and she is not wrong. She also knows Hobbs sees the mission before the person. Still, she has no better option. Brixton is closing in, the virus is inside her, and the agencies watching this situation are too ready to write her off as the problem instead of the victim. The action escalates fast in London. Brixton and his men attack, leading to a brutal street and motorcycle chase that shows just how overwhelming he can be. He moves with mechanical timing, reads opponents almost before they move, and seems to enjoy proving that human limits no longer apply to him. Hobbs and Shaw can fight him, but they cannot overpower him directly. That becomes one of the movie's central problems. Brixton is not simply better trained. He is enhanced, and that means the usual rules do not hold. The trio eventually escapes, but not cleanly. Authorities turn against them, public systems are manipulated, and the team becomes fugitives almost by default. Edion reaches too broad, and Brixton keeps framing events to make it seem like Hobbs, Shaw, and Hattie are the true threat. That forces them to keep moving while also hunting for someone who can extract the virus before it activates. Their search takes them to a black market contact who points them toward a specialist capable of removing Snowflake. But even when they find a promising solution, the process requires equipment they do not have and time they definitely do not have. Brixton attacks again and again, forcing them into fights before they can stabilize the situation. At the same time, bits of his past begin to emerge. He and Deckard have history, and it is bad. Brixton sees himself as proof of the future, while Deckard sees him as a warning about what happens when power strips away humanity. The movie then shifts to Moscow for one of its wilder stretches. Hobbs, Shaw, and Hattie infiltrate a high-security facility to recover the equipment and tools needed to save her. The sequence turns into a mix of stealth, bickering, and chaos. Hobbs wants to push through. Shaw wants style and timing. Hattie often ends up being the most competent person in the room while the two men compete like oversized brothers. This part of the story matters because it proves Hattie is not just the person they need to rescue. She is a full partner in the fight. She is sharp, fearless, and capable of making hard decisions under pressure. The movie never treats her like baggage. She is the reason the mission exists, but she also earns her place in every escape, every fight, and every choice that keeps them alive. Even so, Brixton stays ahead long enough to keep the pressure constant. He finally captures Hattie, taking her straight to Eddie in control. Hobbs and Shaw now face a more direct challenge. They cannot just keep improvising in cities full of surveillance. They need a place where Eddie's systems will be weaker, where Brixton advantages can be reduced, and where family might actually mean more than technology. That realization points Hobbs toward the one place he has avoided for years, his home in Samoa. This turn gives the movie a new emotional layer. Until now, Hobbs has mostly been the hard-charging enforcer, but Samoa brings out the deeper part of him. He has been estranged from his family, especially from his brother Jonah, after choices that fractured their trust. Returning home means facing people he left behind and asking for help after years of silence. That is not easy for a man built on pride. When Hobbs arrives in Samoa with Shaw, the clash in tone is immediate and funny. Shaw looks like he has landed on another planet. Hobbs, meanwhile, shifts into a different version of himself. He becomes son, brother, and uncle again. Beneath the muscles and bravado, Hobbs is still rooted in family, tradition, and responsibility. He needs those things now more than ever. At first, Jonah wants nothing to do with him. Their history is too heavy, and old resentment does not disappear just because the world is ending. But once Hobbs explains the stakes, the family steps up. Against a future obsessed with cyber control and engineered power, Hobbs fights back using people, trust, and old knowledge. The Samoan family helps build traps, shape the battlefield, and turn the island into a place where Brixton technology will not guarantee victory. Meanwhile, Shaw contributes in his own way, helping with the plan and sharpening the edge of the coming fight. For all his sarcasm, he truly cares about Hattie. That sibling bond gives his character more weight than simple coolness ever could. He is still vain and impossible, but he is also willing to put himself in front of death if that is what it takes to bring his sister home. The climax brings Brixton and Eddie and forces to Samoa. Helicopters, armed soldiers, heavy weapons, and high-tech machinery descend on an island defended by trucks, chains, traps, and one determined family. The battle that follows is exactly the kind of large-scale nonsense this series does best, but it works because it has a strong emotional center. Hobbs is fighting with his brother again. Shaw is fighting for his sister. Hattie is fighting to survive long enough for the virus to be removed. The movie stages the final battle as a contrast between machine and family. Brixton relies on systems, calculations, and physical upgrades. Hobbs and Shaw win ground through adaptation, grit, and the willingness to get hit and keep moving. There is a giant sequence involving trucks chained together against a helicopter that should be completely absurd, and it is, but the film knows that. It leans into the spectacle while keeping the conflict clear. Hattie is finally freed and the process to remove Snowflake begins, but Brixton still has one last push left in him. That leads to the final face-off. Hobbs and Shaw realize they cannot beat him one at a time. Brixton reads solo attacks too easily, so they do something they have resisted the whole movie. They actually work together, no one-upmanship, no showing off, just clean coordination. They hit him in rhythm, overwhelm his prediction system, and break through the advantage that made him seem untouchable. It is a satisfying finish because the entire movie has been building toward that lesson. Hobbs and Shaw are strongest not when they are proving who is tougher, but when they stop treating partnership like a punishment. Once they sync up, Brixton starts losing the edge that made him dangerous. He is still powerful, but he is no longer dealing with two separate egos. He is dealing with a team. Brixton is defeated, though not in a way that gives him peace or redemption. Edian treats him the same way it treats everyone, as a tool to be used and discarded. The voice behind the organization reminds the audience that the larger threat is still out there, which keeps the door open for the future. But for now, the immediate danger is stopped, the virus is removed, and Hattie survives. The ending brings both men back to what defines them outside the chaos. Hobbs reconnects more honestly with his family, introduces his daughter to the people and traditions he had kept at a distance, and starts healing a piece of himself he had ignored. Shaw, in his own less sentimental way, rejoins Hattie and their mother, returning to the strange, sharp-edged family dynamic that somehow works for them. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw succeeds because it knows exactly what kind of movie it wants to be. It is loud, fast, funny, and proudly excessive, but underneath the jokes and explosions it is still about loyalty. Hobbs learns that strength is not just force, it is also reconnecting with the people who made him. Shaw proves that beneath the ego there is real devotion. Hattie stands as the center of the story, not a prize to be won, but a fighter who holds the line when everyone else starts falling apart. By the end, the world is safe, the virus is gone, and the two least compatible allies in the room have become a working team. They still argue, still threaten each other, and still act like any shared victory belongs mostly to themselves. But now there is something real under the insults. There is trust. And in this universe, that might be the most dangerous upgrade of all.